Good morning, everybody. Just a quick check-in. We've got some new items to take a look at today. We got baseboard on, well, lots of places in the house, which up here on the third floor is kind of the final layer of trim. It obviously still needs to get painted out. It is a two-piece trim that we did. It's 1x6 flat stock. This is just like pre-primed, finger jointed, all that stuff. And then we had this reproduced. It's the same profile as we are using elsewhere in the trim, with this little notch cut off, which is accurate to what they had produced originally. This is how, so in certain places in the house it was two-piece like this, and then in other places of the house this was milled like this as one single piece, which would have been a lot more expensive. Plus, the two-piece allows us to, hug in. You can see there's a little bit of a gap there, but we can push that in and conform to the unevenness of a plaster wall a little bit better with the two-piece. So the final product turns out a little nicer, and it was a little less expensive because of this finger jointed primed product that is a whole lot less expensive than like a nice clear pine would have been to mill like that. So it's the same look, a little less expensive, and implemented a little differently. We still need some caulking and nail holes kind of filled. It's not perfect. It's going to expand and contract, but generally, these guys did a really nice job, as they have done everywhere. So we got to come through here and paint them out. These are the boys' bedrooms upstairs, of course. They also got some light fixtures put in. They need bulbs. That's why the shades are not on. Every bulb in this house feels different to me. Oh, I'm making a ruckus. But it's kind of like this weird geometric shade. It'll be kind of funky and fun for teenagers. So we're gonna put that in everywhere. Well, both of the bedrooms up here did that same light fixture. Light fixture up here is kind of a hanging schoolhouse, kind of retro feel. And then that's ready to go as well. Baseboards are all done in here. I still need to hang magnets so that I can get the panels back on the wall, but they're all painted out wall color, so that'll kind of disappear. The electricians are still also going through and like making sure outlets are ready to go. I think because this one is on, this switch is on, the other switch is not. But with no bulbs, we can't really test them out, obviously. So trim in here is done as well. It's a little different. It's different under there, you can see. So that trim continues on, and then it gets cut off because we can't stuff it behind, obviously. And the backsplash behind here, well, it's kind of like a backsplash. That's what we did with the trim back there. And we've got that little tiny wedge of board there. We're probably gonna end up putting the cap on that too. So just finish it out. It ought to be done. So we'll have these guys come up and do that. But you can see just how nice this all turns out. Little caulking with an uneven wall is to be expected. But they ran it in here again, as good as can be expected. And it's a little uneven. Really, for this one, we probably should have been doing the base into the flat stock of this trim, but we had to do everything a little out of order. But so this was another kind of exciting adventure. So we have access under here for a duct that we can turn on and off. It's got a little kind of lever control for this, because we don't want a whole lot of heat dumping into this space. It's got such high ceilings, and well, everywhere up here does, but yeah, we wanted greater control than just the vent out here. So this top will lift up, and these boards are kind of fit tight, but not secured. So they'll just kind of get painted in place. I think what I'm gonna do to start with is pop it all out, have it wide open, and then just try to control it here. And if that's suitable, I probably will secure everything before I paint in there. But that'll all just get painted out trim color, and this will be kind of like a broom closet, vacuum, cleaning supplies, things like that. Whereas the other one will be for linens and, you know, typical bathroom stuff. And it has a flat floor, keeping it simple. Everything's done in here. I think I've shown this a couple of times. I went through and cleaned. I got this back assembled, and it is all good. Actually, there's a slight, after running the water, there was a slight leak. I think you can just see a tiny little puddle there. So that trap is letting a little something out that we got to figure out. That's a point. So kind of continuing down, still missing some balusters because we were waiting on some finish to be applied to the floor here. It's been applied. It looks to me like I can still see it in the screen here. I can still see it in the screen there. So I might have to just grab it myself so that we can get these balusters in. Obviously, we need that secured before we can gain a CO, certificate of occupancy, which we're hoping to do in the next week or two. So I think we're realistic and expecting that. So base is all done in here, base is done in here. We're kind of strategic for where like different seams were placed. This is going to be behind the bed there. No seams. There was a seam here. I wish that hadn't been done, but it'll be behind a dresser. On this wall, that's no big deal. No seams here. I think only one seam here, and it's staggered. There's one here, and on the top cap, it's further down. We've got all the base done in the guest room. So, but for the paint, the second floor is really done as well. These doors have to come back out. We have hung the sink in here. It's got a good look to it. Fits in with everything else going on in here. So towels go kind of on either side, which is super cool. The legs are pinned down into the floor. These are the legs that I picked up a little bit. And actually, now that it's in place, it could have been lower. It's very comfortable for like an adult to work at, and it's going to be fine for Ollie to have. He'll be able to reach everything. We checked. But the retro feel of it, I think it would have been fine to drop it the 6 inches and not do this, but it is what it is now, and I'm not going to change it. So I do need to come back in and trade out my screws for some stainless, kind of cleaner looking screws there. That's just kind of what we had in place. But this bathroom is essentially done as well. Bedroom, all the trim, all the way around, and no seams at all in any of this base that I'm seeing. Oh, we got one on the cap right there, but very close to seamless. We've got a nice kind of seamless transition into the what is that, skirt board? I guess it's the skirt board in here, and we've done the same thing underneath all the trim here. Kind of a nice clean detail here. This is all gonna get painted out and I think look really nice. We haven't decided if we're gonna try to stain to match these guys or just paint everything out. I'm leaning right now to painting everything. Even though the finish didn't even get underneath, we're gonna have to do that, I guess, by hand, very carefully. Maybe I'll use a wipe on or something on the edges to get that looking nice, but that's an adventure for after we live here. So this one spot, and it's dead center right when you walk in. I don't love what happened here, so wish we hadn't had to use a little scarf here for such a short piece, and then ultimately we jammed it in there enough to get a nail pop. So we've got some fixing to do, and that'll be a lot of sanding for me to make look right, and hopefully make that seam disappear when it's all painted out. But office is trimmed and ready to go as well. Obviously, these are all the new balusters that go in along here. They need to they're getting glued down into the floor, and they are going to be then, I guess there's one missing there. We gotta do that. And then they are gonna get glued in both locations, and then some of these, not all of them, but here's one, rattles around a little bit and you hear it. Some of them are super loose. There's one somewhere here that's making a ruckus. So we don't want to hear that noise. So a little bit of glue as kind of like a filler. It'll be a polyurethane, like a thick goopy glue. And then a little pin nail up and at an angle will hold it in place and let that polyurethane glue just expand a little bit into the gaps. And then I'll have to come through with a razor and kind of trim it off and clean it up when I stain and paint everything. And that'll be tedious, but that's kind of the type of task I do best. I take my time, do the detail work, and have it all turn out well. Let's see. Nope, none of these lights are gonna work for us yet. That's a bummer. Downstairs, so we've got the trim along the rake board on the left here. That all looks nice. It dives straight into here. A little bit of caulk. Clean that up. And we've pre-cut for a lot of these boards on the first floor. Pretty much all of them except for back here where it needs to get backed up before it gets cut. So like pieces of filler in various places before the base gets done. Plus we're gonna have to scrape and sand along that edge before the base goes on, because otherwise it's going to be basically impossible to get clean and sanded on the faces here if the baseboard is kind of within an inch or so. That's not going to look good, so we got to get that straightened out. But what else since last time you were here? That's probably it. It's been a lot of little things. The powder room has power. I checked this earlier. The lights are installed. They look nice. I'm gonna have an original mirror that we salvaged out of the house right here. Little callback, and they're coming on Monday to clean this back up and give us the right marble, backsplash, that whole deal, and fix up some of the things happening in the kitchen as well. So that should be exciting. We should be able to clear this out, wrap everything up, and the floor in the closet is ready to go too. I think that's new. So base needs to happen in here, as well as a whole bunch of trim for the kitchen cabinets. So we've got a little bit to go here. We got to get plugs working and covers on before we can put appliances away. Both dishwashers need to be wired up. The range needs to be wired up in the back. Here's the cord. It needs to come out here and get plugged in. But otherwise, it's ready to push into the wall. And the ductwork for the range has been set up. So it's ready to go. Right now, the ERVs have been running. So they're finally in place and running. And so right now they are making a little bit of reverse pressure in the house. So it's actually like sucking air in here. It's blowing in. So it's basically those ERVs are powering too much out and not enough in. There's not a perfect balance. And so in reality, you're not ever going to get a perfect balance. But what you want to get is it bringing it in just a little more than it's pushing it out, which pressurizes the house. And the excess of pressure would make air want to leave out of here instead of back in. That'll help our flap close and stay closed, and it will help cold air rushing. Right now, cold air is coming in through there, and we don't want that. We'd rather lose a little bit of heat than gain a lot of cold or heat in the summertime. So like everything flip-flops in the summertime, but that's the idea. We'd like to set the ERV up so that that is pushing out instead of coming back in. They still need to run a wire up here to power this. That's something else we're waiting for. When that comes out, they can wire it in and get it hung. But that needs to be a coordinated effort. And that coordination has not yet happened. So I'm hoping this week becomes really productive. They're replacing our countertops here and here, and they're going to modify the peninsula to make a whole lot more sense and look a lot nicer. So hopefully by this next video, those will be done, and these appliances will actually be in place. And you'll start to see, like, crown. We got a light rail going on underneath here to straighten out the bottoms of the cabinets. All that should get done this week, and trim should be done. And then we're off to the races, and hopefully moving in as early as this weekend. That's the plan currently, but there's still a lot to do. Missing lights outside, missing covers on all of these electrical issues, and some lights to be hung and things like that. So I've got a growing list of punch list items that have to get dealt with, and I'll make that a priority Monday morning. Till then, take care, and hope the next one there's some furniture in here and we're living here. Fingers crossed.